of the
So cute.
incredible humans that we have here named us that. Yeah, and so like we although thought it, even though we're doing our virtuals as Team Domingo, we thought it was weird if we have mentors under Team Domingo. So so Ray came up with the key, and I'll let him kind of talk on that because that's his. But so if you are following the key or you see a bunch of like mentors popping up that we're nominating, we those are folks from our contact list because we've learned you partner with each other across organizations, across industries in order to uplift our own. So sorry, I kind of got excited and then I just started
Awesome.
running. Um,
Just to give context to this, like I've heard from other people that have gone to their mill city that there were like 100 people coming to see them from like all over Texas every time they do it. So the fact that we have them here and we get to talk to them and ask them questions and there's like this small group like is amazing, guys. Like this is such a wonderful opportunity and I'm so grateful that they came to talk to us. And like
you may want to hide under my desk. Like I'm like, sorry.
the thing that like Sam said is why her and Ray are so amazing. Like usually when you talk to a tech recruiter, you are like legit a number. They don't care. Like if you don't fill these little boxes, like they don't want anything to do with you. Like Sam like gets it. Like for instance, Tuesday my babysitter was sick. I had a meeting with her and she's like, "Oh, I've had little kids, it's fine." And I'm like, "Oh my god, why are you so amazing?" Like she understands.
I've been there, done that.
Like,
I
like
wouldn't be
it's
surprised if
so
our dogs start
amazing to have
barking.
someone who understands what you're talking about. Like after getting like the shaft for years when you've gone through like everything you can think of to get a job, you know? Like I've learned so much literally just following her around LinkedIn and like bugging her all the
Aw,
time. Like
no.
I'm
Ray's
like,
all smiling because he's like, "Oh," he tells me these things, and like I'm one of those if it's my birthday and we have birthday party, like I'll like try to not open the gifts in front of everyone, and then like when I get compliments, I'm like hee, and I just like want to hide under my
no,
blanket because it's
dude, you
cold.
should get all like you've
Yeah.
done so much for so many people. You should get all the recognition. You should be proud of yourself.
I think, honestly, I would say once I found my passion, right? And that was help our community pivot into tech. Even before I came to AWS as a military recruiter, because I could see portability and I could see opportunity and I could see the ability to be able to make a really bomb career, making pretty good money, working remotely and PCSing wherever you need to go, and it doesn't throw a wrench into your life. Um, I think that passion is what's pushed me way out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean? Like I say, I'm shy in the compliments and stuff, but like all I can think to myself is I can't answer every message that comes through on LinkedIn. I can't engage with everybody one on one. So how do we build more leaders? How do we build more change makers? And how do we uplift each other? And so, we've had to get pretty creative with that. So
I
yeah,
can't
it
even
means a lot.
imagine how many like messages you get on LinkedIn. It must be crazy. If I get like as soon as you put AWS in your LinkedIn, like everybody writes you on LinkedIn and everybody wants you to like tell them everything. And I'm like, dude, I don't know anything to help you, but I'll tell you what I know.
I'll try share. And that's the thing that's the thing about like networking and stuff on LinkedIn is branding yourself with your content. Like I've noticed Autumn, like you have been posting like funny tech jokes,
I'm
which
like,
always make me chuckle. Yeah. So it's like finding your like your niche. I always say niche, but finding your niche to like set yourself apart. I knew who Autumn was because I've been a part of the MilSpouse coder group for quite some time. I can't remember when I joined it, but I periodically creep in there, which I'm a weirdo, but I'm a recruiter, and that's what we do. Um, Ray will tell you I am a little weird, but in the good kind of weird. I think, right, Ray?
surprised when you were on there. You were like, oh, we got your application. I was like, she's in here.
Hmm. And I'm like, I know exactly who you are because I've seen you sharing content. I see, that's the difference. Like that's what I love about my job, right? Is that I look for potential. That's what I do. You don't have to have done it before. And I like that. I like being able to find, that unicorn, even in individuals that may not even know it's there yet. That's why I can't harp on volunteer experience, like gaining volunteer experience and engaging in your community, you know, um, any more than I could, I guess. But yeah, I keep talking over Ray. Like Ray hasn't even said hi. Sorry.
Hi.
also stalk Ray on LinkedIn too. Like,
He's awesome. Like he's really good about sharing. Like he's constantly sharing content, and I'm like, "Where do you have the energy, Ray?" And he's like,
where do you guys find all this stuff? Like, it's always like really great stuff that you guys find and that share. And how do you find all these mentors? You picked really good mentors, especially from AWS and a lot of cybersecurity and all over. You guys have really good mentors that I've been like creeping on and following, and then I'm like, hey, another one.
"There's one." Well, when I was at Rackspace, that's what I was their dedicated recruiter for cybersecurity, network security, risk and compliance. So I have a lot of folks in my pipeline. But like Ray, Ray, do you want to share what kind of roles that you work with, recruit for with Lockheed, or do mini intro?
No, yeah, definitely, definitely. First, also, I shared some links. The first one is going to be LinkedIn Mill City, right? And then the second one is the key, straight to LinkedIn, right? I highly recommend everybody like connect with every single one. They are open to mentoring.
They're
Um,
expecting it.
they're expecting it. They want it, right? And these are folks that's like within like corporate companies, large companies. Of course, Amazon's on there, USAA, Lockheed,
Boeing,
Facebook, Boeing, Microsoft.
Google.
So these are all folks that we personally know. These are folks that we personally know, right? And a lot of stuff that we share is from personal experience. When I retired late 2015, I did 20 years in the Air Force. I never had an interview. I never had to do a resume, so I had to start from scratch. I was completely lost. It took me 7 months to find a job after retired. So a lot of struggles, a lot of failures. But I always tell people, if I could start all over, I'd do it again because now I have the ability to, pay it forward and give guidance. And along the way, I interviewed for so many companies. Everybody
Became
that
like a
reached out to me,
professional
that
interviewer.
was that was my full time job was to interview, right? Because I've also learned is not to burn any bridges. Don't burn any bridges. If somebody interviews you and you're like, this is not something I'm looking forward to, right? Or think that in your mind. I thought it a lot, right? But never burnt a bridge because now I could go back and reach out to these recruiters that actually interviewed me in the past and create that rapport, and now they're willing to give guidance also. So for Lockheed Martin, I started with Lockheed Martin October 29, yeah, 2019. Funny story. So 2019, a job popped up here in San Antonio. It was around, I think, Feb 2019. I applied. A week later, I got rejected. I'm like, what is going on here? That was fast, right? And then I started, recruiting for different companies, multiple companies for contract positions, right? And then around August timeframe hits, Lockheed Martin reaches out to me on LinkedIn, right? And then I let the sourcer, which is the talent hunter, know. Just want to let you know, I applied for Lockheed Martin back in Feb and I got rejected already. He said, no, you absolutely fit this role. You are what we're looking for. Would you be open to talking to us? I'm like, absolutely, right? So I started recruiting October 2019 for Lockheed Martin. And my specialty for Lockheed Martin is cybersecurity, software engineers, and systems engineer. That's my specialty. And I pretty much recruit for all the levels. I recruit for no clearance all the way up to full scope poly, which is the highest clearance that you could do. And right now, currently, I'm recruiting for 12 different programs globally. Originally, they wanted me to lead. I'm the only recruiter here in San Antonio, the only recruiter for Lockheed Martin. Right, we have a brand new site here in San Antonio. Right, they opened it 2019, early 2019, but due to COVID we can't even staff it. So they started having me recruit, New York, Colorado, different bases, DC. Now recruit for UAE also, United Arab Emirates. So I recruit globally now. But I'm looking forward to recruiting for San Antonio because there's so many talent here in San Antonio. But what's great about Lockheed Martin also is if you were to apply for a role anywhere for Lockheed Martin and I'm not the primary recruiter, if you let me know what the rec number is, I could actually reach out directly to the recruiter. I could reach out directly to the recruiter and let them know that, I I know you. I reviewed the resume, pretty much like a referral, right? But we don't get any referral bonuses as a recruiter. So if you see any roles for Lockheed Martin, definitely let me know. I could reach out to the recruiter, the primary recruiter, so that way they could do a review and pass forward to the hiring team. But it's been amazing because you know, before Lockheed Martin, it's all been like contract positions. You know, I recruited for USAA, I recruited for Boeing, I recruited for Accenture, HP, JP Morgan, F5 Networks. It's funny because I have a slide, right? I have like all the logos of all the companies I recruited for, and I let people know, you know, I'm collecting badges. It's almost like a Boy Scout badge because I got all these companies. So I recruited for about 17 different companies total. But it's been an amazing ride because, like I said, I've gained so much knowledge to where I can actually share it. And Sam and I both try our best to share knowledge share with folks and give guidance because like everybody was saying, you know, a lot of folks they keep that knowledge internally and they don't want to share it, right? So like the key, same thing, we pretty much opened the doors for everybody to connect with different companies, different mentors. Same with LinkedIn Mill City. It was crazy because LinkedIn Mill City, we started it 2018 December, and we were thinking like maybe 10 people is going to show up, right? When we launched it that first month, we had like over 150 show up, and it's been amazing because all the locations that hosted us, they hosted us for free. And the I think the most iconic one is inside the Alamo. So we actually had a meetup inside the Alamo, and it was crazy also is because people were flying in from different states to our meetup, right? So a plus side, which isn't really a plus, right? Plus side of COVID, now we have the ability to reach folks even overseas. So whenever we do virtual events, we know we have folks from Germany, Hawaii, UK, different,
Philippines.
yeah, Philippines. I mean, they're all joining our virtuals now. So that's a plus side, right? But there's so much out there for you know folks trying to give guidance, right? And we personally selected or we personally launched the key so that way we can actually personally vet certain mentors because there are some guidance that we see on LinkedIn and sometimes we go to battle, Sam goes to battle, I go to battle, and we try to correct folks. That's not how it really is, right? We call them parrots, right? Because there are certain folks that hear things or see things or read things, right? And then they repeat it. So whatever they repeat, it's like
Even if it's inaccurate.
it is. Yeah, it
Like
is.
there's no
So,
fact checking. So you're
yep,
gonna have a lot of people like giving
there
you
is.
advice and guidance, and we may even give you advice or guidance or say something, but take it and leave it for what applies to you and who you are as a person. Because like I'm an extrovert, obviously I just talked over Ray, and Ray's an introvert. So we kind of balance each other. Sorry, Ray.
True, true. Yep. And it's funny because I've done so many like virtual someone's presentations, workshops, but it's still uncomfortable for me. But the thing is, I try to turn on a switch, right, to where I'm like, all right, it's game time. Let's do this, right? But the main thing is, you know, Sam was telling me before, because before I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do presentations and workshops. But I think it's very helpful to knowledge share. And I think the somebody brought it up as far as resumes, right? I had no clue how to write resumes, no clue. When I retired, I had a 15-page resume, so I applied. After 200 applications, I didn't even get a call back. I didn't get an email. And now I know that 15-page resume isn't working out. It's not how you apply, right?
He also learned what we go through every time we PCS.
I did. I did. I never felt what military spouses felt like till I retired because we moved so many times, right? And then we PCS, and then 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and I'm like, Sam, time's ticking. You got your MBA. Why don't you have a job yet, right? And I felt it. I felt it, right? Because um, you know, I never interviewed, never wrote a resume. I applied, I interviewed nonstop, and I still didn't get selected. And I knew for a fact that I was qualified. I knew for a fact I was qualified, right? But the thing is, I didn't start getting interviews. I didn't start getting selected till I started learning how to write my resume, till I started learning how to, have a interview technique, which is STAR, right? But I could pretty much break down on how to tailor resumes. Piece of cake for me now because I've done it so many times and I've given a lot of guidance. Interview technique. I highly recommend using star technique, because when I first started interviewing, interviewer would ask me a question, I'd answer it. 5 minutes later, the interviewer's like, "Now let's go back to my question." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, right?" But Star definitely it definitely puts you on point on whatever they're trying to ask you. So situation, task, action, result. It helped me out big time. Helped me out big time. And I always let folks know also is if they ask you a question and you have no experience on, as far as whatever they're asking you, right? Think of what would you do in that situation. Think of it, and then answer it that way. And I always think of start as like an open canvas, right? um, Situation, task, action, result, from start to finish. Complete the whole entire process. Don't skip one of the letters, right? But definitely helped me out, and since then I've been knocking out interviews. And I didn't really realize how I should be interviewing till I started listening to Sam's interview, because when I first started interviewing, I felt like I was being investigated, um,
Interrogated with the
big
hot
time,
lamp and everything, like he'd be
big
sweating.
time. Yeah, after the interview, I'll be like sweating like crazy, right? And I started listening to Sam. I'm like, how in the heck do you do that? It's all conversational, right? And then I started learning Star. I started spying on the interviewers, not spying, but getting to know them. Checked out their LinkedIn, checked out their Facebook, right? So that way, when I interview initially off the bat, I try to relate with them. So I see you're in Seattle, right? Try to relate with them. So I see you, check out their posts and stuff, and then so that way you could talk about something. So that way, off the bat, it's all comfortable, like conversational, and then it started getting easier for me to where Sam was like, "How are you interviewing so much?" I mean, I found it pretty fun. I like interviewing. I like listening to other recruiters or hiring managers, what questions they ask, right? And then another thing is ask the interviewer questions also. Ask them questions. You could Google top 10 questions to ask an interviewer and then pick three, right? But the main thing is, if it's like an interview process that takes 2 or 3 rounds, right? Make sure you don't ask the interviewer the same questions, because they do talk after the interview. So change up your questions. The questionings for the interviewer. So as far as tailoring your resume, the easiest and fastest way to tailor your resume, right? And every time you apply, even though it's the same title, right? Make sure you tailor your resume, because the basic qualifications might be different. So fully focus on the BQs, the basic qualifications. Each job posting will have a basic qualifications, right? And as recruiters, we have to validate somebody's resume and make sure all the BQs are in somebody's resume. That's the most important thing, right? Go ahead, Sam.
If it's not in there, it never happened. So that's where you run into the issue of like one page resume versus 15 page resume, because you don't then you're like, I can't leave anything out. But control F is beautiful. So after you've tailored your resume to a role, try to put yourself in the seat of the recruiter. Okay, if I was a recruiter, I would be making sure that this resume had um, you know, uh, 1+ years of experience with Microsoft Office, or I would make sure that they have experience coding in Python or Java or JavaScript or whatever. But you can do a quick control F through your resume to double check it to make sure that it has the skills that you need to have listed to show you're the best fit for that role. And also, preferred qualifications, obviously, if you have them, are important to work in as well. But as recruiters, if you ever apply to a role and you're getting declined and you're like, but I know I qualified, like the recruiter should know with this job that I did before, that I would automatically have that experience. You can't assume that they know, because those recruiters may have no idea what an SDE really does, or they may not even know about the career track for an SDE, but they're tasked by their hiring managers to look for talent. So think of it as your ticket to the show, um to that big show as being the interview, and give them enough to where they're hungry. Technical resumes are also a good route, listing all of the different I'm trying to think of it now, languages, APIs, or if you worked with Linux, Unix, Windows, like list all of that. Sometimes people do a nice little table, right? And then make sure that you include those skills throughout each of the roles that you used before. And let's again remember, volunteer work counts. So projects you've built on your own. If you're going to conferences, if you're studying for different certifications, but maybe don't have the certification. Include that stuff, like projects you've done on your resume. They are applicable, and specifically for entry level, even through to mid level software devs. As recruiters, we look for that. We want to know you're engaged with MilSpouse coders. You know what I mean? That you're doing it because you're enjoying it, and you're um, engaged and interested. I keep thinking learn and be curious because that's one of our leadership principles, so Autumn. But I know we're talking a lot at everyone. Is do you guys have any questions, or any area that you would like us to talk about?
I'm just sharing a bunch of like articles that I wrote on LinkedIn. The first one is pretty much like how to tailor your resume. The second one is interview prep, and then the third one is star technique. But if you have any questions, throw it at us. The harder questions, the better. So we'll definitely answer it.
At
Piece of
first,
cake.
when I heard about this technique, I thought people were crazy, but I legit like sat there and wrote out different like I looked up like what questions Amazon usually asks you, and I literally wrote out situations for all of those and like practice them and like practice the leadership principles. Like I went in there ready. Like you gotta like look up whatever company you're applying to and like be prepared. Like it's like a whole nother job, but it really works, dude. Like you feel so much more comfortable when you're sitting there talking to them after you like kind of know what you want to say. It like I highly recommend that
It's
whole.
big, and also it's like, like with Amazon, it is huge. Understanding leadership principles, having situations that you can share, being comfortable with that, in doing so in the star format, showing results. Um, the other day we had our last Team Domingo virtual, and what was her name again, Ray, from Boeing? Kathy.
Kathy. Yep.
Kathy, so Kathy had shared, what are the three sexiest keys on your keyboard? Anybody know? It's 3, 4, 5. So when you're looking at quantifying stuff in an interview or on your resume, think of 3, 4, 5 on your keyboard and make sure that you're including results. And I was like, that's such a cool way to remember it. So every time I see 3, 4, 5 on my keyboard, I'm like, those sexy keys. Because it's something that's important to remember. And when you're interviewing, and you get nervous and you start rambling because you're like, oh, I don't know, my mind's blank, or you start taking it left field, and they're pulling you back to the right or whatever it is, just make sure that you remember star technique, even if it's not required. What was the situation? What was the task? What did you do? What was the action you took? And what were the results? Um, but yeah. Yeah.
I felt like before, like when you generally go into an interview, like I never really knew what to focus on, and I just felt like it was just throwing you in there and it was so much pressure. But kind of having that structure, kind of gives you like a way that you can shine in a way, but like it gives you that nice like structure in which to do it, which I felt really helpful, and I felt like it was like a preparation, which is funny because I got that from your LinkedIn before.
Yeah. Ray's all like,
No, honestly, like I've like you post a lot of really good articles, and it's crazy that you guys like actually like write all this stuff. It's crazy, like, and that you pulled all that from like actual experience, because like that could be really defeating to have to go through all that, and then you turned it, instead of like it being defeating, like all this great information that you like help people like. A person in my cohort for like Amazon actually went to one of your Mill City things, and you like helped them and like gave their husband like advice. Like that's really, you like really changed people's actual like lives and circumstances and help people's family. Like that means a lot to people when you can actually like help them. Like that's really cool, instead of it like just defeating. Like not only did you take yourself out of that situation and put yourself in a better situation, you helped other people help their families, and I think that's awesome.
No, I know Sam was telling the story as far as after I retired. It was extremely tough. It was extremely tough. We had savings. We planned on
had
staying on base. Yep. We
he
stayed.
had great credit too back then before he got out.
Yeah, and we planned on staying on base after retired for 6 months. We ended up staying there for 2 years. Savings depleted. We were uh, in the process of getting both cars repoed. It was pretty bad, and we
It was
were.
humbling.
It is. It was, and we we were picking whether we were going to live with my parents or her parents. It was at that point, and all we had at the time was my retirement pay. My disability didn't kick in until like the following year, right? And whenever I got my retirement pay, I would race to the ATM machine to make sure the kids had lunch money, to make sure the kids are straight, right? But something we told each other is we would never forget where we came from, and we would once we land on our feet. Once we land on our feet, we were going to pay it forward, and that's the only ask we let folks know is once they land on their feet to pay it forward to give back, and that's why we have such a large network now because there's a lot of folks that landing on their feet, and now they're open to paying forward.
I think one of the biggest struggles for me too was, and it was like, yes, I got married young, yes, I started my family young, but like I wanted a career. And unfortunately, like military life was all I knew. So I didn't really know what it was like to not be in the military life like I do now, as a vet spouse. But I wish that someone would have told me that I wasn't messing up. Like I didn't take the wrong road. That there are just barriers there. That as a military spouse, and as a military brat, you have to navigate, and it's normal to not be okay with it, and it's normal to fall and trip, because all that matters, you dust yourself off and you get up, and it shouldn't be to where a military spouse feels they cannot start their careers until after their service member separates or retires. It's frustrating because that's how I felt. Like I felt like, okay, when you get out, Ray, then it's my turn, and it shouldn't be that way. So a career. That's why I'm so passionate about careers in tech, because you can, even pre-COVID, work in remote roles. You can build your career, and you can make some really great money in that space too. So
I've heard
that
that.
was a big one.
Just wait till your kids get older. Wait till your husband retires. And I'm like, I didn't work this hard to wait that long. Like, I don't
It's
want.
true, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. So, like, that's why we do what we do. Cause I'm like, I wish someone would just tap me on the shoulder and been like, yes, you're doing great. Just keep pushing. Do the best with what you can. If it's only one class at a time, it's one class at a time. If it's only one cert or that certification takes you, you know, 6 months longer than somebody else, that's okay because you're balancing life and you're balancing a lot of change, to where, your spouse could be deployed tomorrow, or all of a sudden they go on an MEB and they're going to be separating earlier than your family planned. There's so many things that can happen that are unique to the military, I guess, space or lifestyle, um, that we need more and more people out there to have these conversations, to build groups like the one you guys have built, and to participate and take advantage of those resources. That's the only way I think we can, make sure that our community's thriving, outside of being inside of the military community, but at external organizations, if that makes sense.
I think somebody brought up as far as like gap of employment. Military spouse. I had gap of employment because after I retired, I didn't get a job for 7 months, and then I didn't even really know how contractors work, right? So I was a contractor before Lockheed Martin. So I've lost 3 contracts within 5 years of retiring. The first contract I lost, I was unemployed for another 6 months, right? So I started being creative. Sam and I was talking about, how do we be creative to fill the gap? Volunteer. Fill the gap with volunteer. You know what I'm saying? So in your resume, you could put those volunteer times, so there is no gaps or there is no questions, or what folks sees as red flags, right? Fill the gap with volunteerism.
Yeah, and military spouse resumes, for somebody that doesn't understand military spouse life, they see flags that aren't flags, right? So if you have no idea that this military spouse, PCS to Hawaii, then is now over in Alabama and then over in Texas, like you're going to be like, why is this person moving all over the place? Like that's a risk. Like what's going on? Especially if you don't know their military spouse. So that's another thing where it's educating our community, and educating people that want to work with our community, on what is actually a red flag for us. Because if you see a PCS and you see a gap of employment, that person PCS and it took them a little longer to get a job. So that's not a flag versus, years of unemployment in between, or job hopping, as they say. But the thing is, too, with tech, you see that more and more. You see folks taking contract roles and moving from one organization to another, and you can see them like literally like leveling up. They're broadening their skill sets, they're broadening their industry exposure, their exposure to, be it like, say they were doing front end development before, but you could tell like from looking at their work history, they're aiming for full stack, being a full stack developer or a software developer in test, where you get to go and test all the code and do all that fun stuff. But you just start to see those trends, and so like it's when you're building out your resume and you're trying to figure out what that next step or that next company or role is going to be for you, it's so important to not only make sure that you're researching those people and the jobs that you want or the companies you want to see trends in skill sets or certifications, etc., but it's also important that you start gathering those badges, right? And if you can't get it through direct employment experience, you build your own table, as our friend Quincy would say. You go for that opportunity. You don't have to follow a set of rules, especially in tech. There are rules in tech, there's regulations and stuff, but I mean is when you're driving your career, you have the ability to be able to flex into many different skill sets. The demand for like software developers, for example, is much higher than the supply. So programs like with Amazon Web Services, with the apprenticeship programs, we're teaching you, we're training you, giving you on the job training, and we move you into that role because it's important that we're growing our own talent. And when we interview for these roles, there is no technical screen in the interview process. It's all leadership principles, because we know we can train you, we can teach you those skills, we can teach you how to code in Java. If you've coded in JavaScript before, then you understand those concepts. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, someone that has experience in Linux probably wouldn't have a hard time with Unix. You know what I mean? So like as technical recruiters, as you're growing, you start to like see those trends as well. But even as you're trying to plan out your career path, I highly recommend looking for those trends. And LinkedIn is like a buffet of knowledge and offering that wasn't there. Back when we had to look on the newspaper to see. I'm dating myself now, aren't I? Um,
Yeah, I also recommend start looking at like job descriptions. Start looking at
Yes.
job descriptions, right? Because it'll let you know. It's almost like a to-do list, right? It's almost like a to-do list, and every job description could be different. Look at the job description, and some of them, like Lockheed Martin, it might say like uh, must be knowledgeable of blah or something, right? Must be knowledgeable of this. If you're not knowledgeable of it right now, start your research. Start your research now, and then once you get some basic knowledge, you could put in your resume,
Hmm.
knowledgeable, right? And
Or
and
knowledge of.
for when I was recruiting for Accenture and HP and also JP Morgan Tech, I started learning as far as how folks would do their resume. They would put like technical skills, and then they would put down all the stuff they're knowledgeable of within that technical skills,
That's what
not
I
within
said.
their experience, but within the technical skills. Yep.
I totally said that already. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
got you.
We're married, so we can do this, right? We can like pick on each other. He's
I'm out of
actually
here.
upstairs, and I'm down, I'm downstairs. But so any questions or comments or
I have a
anything?
question for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making the career switch from being a math teacher to hopefully software development. And so I've spent the last like 3 years actually writing content for online math courses. So I've learned a ton of Java. I've written a bunch of Calculus 3, like problem sets in Java, in Python. I've learned Java because I'm getting my master's in IT with a concentration in software development. So I have all
Good.
these like random skills.
That's not
And
random.
it's not
Math.
random.
No,
Uh,
no.
but my
Mathematics
issue,
strength there is what we love to see.
yes, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's really awesome. Like I feel like I am totally confident in my ability to make this change, but I had my first tech interview a few weeks ago and it was awful.
That's okay.
So my question would really be, so since that interview, I've been doing a lot of just like kind of like looking at the checklist and being like, okay, I'm signing up for this agile development specialization on Coursera. I've been working through that. I've been working through like the Python specialization. I did a whole course in a day because I already really know a lot more than I realized. But my question would really be, do I need to keep adding like Like I don't know React. I don't know Node.js. I don't know like lots of these different random frameworks or a lot of the terminology because I haven't been in the world. So do I need to spend more time learning before interviewing, or can I go into it? Like, will recruiters or hiring managers act like I'm crazy for even wanting to interview for these types of jobs?
Mm-mm. I think you said it. You learned Python in a day.
Well,
So
I mean, I took the course in
but
a
what I'm
day.
saying,
Yeah.
is that, if you're confident that you can learn, if you're confident that you can put the work in, like that confidence will show in an interview. So just because you feel you bombed an interview, that's okay. We all bomb an interview. Sometimes we bomb them a couple times until we're comfortable. You know how Ray mentioned the what is it? I keep doing the little hot light interrogation feeling that he got in interviews. So my guidance to you would be to start reaching out and finding mentors or people in the roles that you want, and ask them if they're down to have a conversation. Because when you
Okay.
start talking to professionals in those roles, they've already went down the path, right? So they can be like, oh, I bet you need to know this technology or this language is something that you should focus on. There is a really high need for Java developers across multiple industries. So USAA, that was the big one we wanted, Java developers. We look for Java in SDE skill sets, or like when I'm looking at coding boot camps is one of the qualifications for the software development engineer apprenticeship. Like when I'm going through and I'm assessing someone's resume, I want to see Java as the boot camp, or that they've had some exposure there, and that's backend predominantly from my full understanding. Another
So
big
in
one
that
that
case,
USA
do
wanted
I
was
need to
REST
just
APIs.
so I did apply for the Amazon apprenticeship and just didn't. I just got the email saying we're a different direction. But so do I just need to like expound on my resume, because I have Java listed? I'm very confident in Java. I've taken multiple Java classes. Do I just need to like expound instead of it, because I don't have that in my job experience? I just have it as listed as what I can do.
So I would, if you've done those in previous roles or had exposure to something in previous roles, you're going to put it throughout your resume to show prior
Okay.
experience. It's also job titles too. You'll want to make sure, like, you don't necessarily have to use the job title that you had at company X. Every company has different job titles, right? When you're writing out your job title, it's really defining what you did in that role. For example, I don't know, what's an example of a recruiter? You're like lead staff something, Ray, right?
Staff. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
people don't know what that is on the outside.
No.
So that could be the equivalent to Rackspace's advisor recruiter, or different companies have different names. So making sure the title to
that makes sense.
capture your experience is there. But so it's tricky with the SDE apprenticeship, and the reason why is it's our most popular one. Out of all of them, it is our most popular one, meaning that it's the most competitive as well. It is only open to military spouses, veterans, transitioning military, guard, and reservists. Like this program, that's it. That's why it's a specific military program. A lot of what we're looking for is, and I'm looking at it so I can read it for you.
I might not, if it was military, that might not be what I applied for then. So I'm not hurt about it. It's fine. I'm just focused on figuring out what to do next.
No, you're good. You're good. So are you a military spouse?
Yeah. My husband actually flies F-16, so we like Lockheed.
So you are military. So you're part of the military, so you can apply for that. So that would be it.
Yeah.
But a lot of so for this last round, for example, we had cleared opportunities open, and we had only a couple, like literally, I think I could put 3 forward for the last SDE apprenticeship. It's a smaller cohort for non-clear talent. Everyone that got put forward has had at least a bachelor's degree that was CS related.
Gotcha.
So a lot, like obviously to qualify, you can have a STEM degree. Math experience and knowledge is so important. I mean, our son is he's enrolled in a computer science degree at Northwest Vista out here in San Antonio. And he struggles a little bit with math, and he's just like, I have to get better at this, because if I don't, is this the right route for me? Like, that's what we love to see, that mathematics. What else? I think also so for the basic qualifications, it's a bachelor's or higher degree in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or STEM, associate's degree in STEM with 2+ years of technical troubleshooting experience, or 2+ years towards a STEM degree with 2+ years of technical troubleshooting experience, or graduation from a coding boot camp. So those are
Yeah.
the BQs, right?
Mhm.
Exposure to object-oriented languages. So we ask for Java and C++. That's something that's liked, but it's not necessary. Like, it's not required. So even if folks are like they go to a boot camp that's front end dev focused, and they haven't utilized Java before, it's not going to keep you from getting the role. I would say the biggest thing that makes you the strongest candidate is a CS degree. But if you don't have it, that doesn't mean you can't be considered. It just depends too on the size of our cohorts, because normally we'll have up to 20 people in a cohort. This round, it's a total of maybe, I think it's like less than 6. So,
Gotcha.
Don't think that not getting picked up on that first shot with any role, it means that that's not the path for you. Unless you've interviewed them, they've interviewed you, because that's what you should do in interviews. You also interview them to make sure it's a fit for you. But if after that, then you're like, oh, that's not the right path. But definitely don't let it discourage you if your resume didn't get pushed forward, because it doesn't mean that it won't. You know what I mean? It could just
Yeah.
mean a million things, like smaller head count and stuff. But I like the sound of your background, and I now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look at your resume.
And also,
It might be updated since I submitted it to Amazon, but it's not bad.
Awesome.
practice interviewing and stuff. If you want, we can set up like a meeting next week, and we can go over like using the STAR method and like go over your resume if you want help. I'm like really swamped this week and like the beginning of next week, but if you want to do it like maybe like the end of next week, we could set up something and go over it on Zoom, and we could like practice like the STAR method and that stuff if you want to.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have another interview
good.
tomorrow, so we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah. What type of role are you going to interview for tomorrow?
Tomorrow is less like software development techie. I work for, most of my work is for Wiley, and they have a course production manager position that I'm going to interview for. So
Nice.
it fits more in education, and I have less of a long shot.
That's good. That's good. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks for
But definitely stay in touch. And then Autumn knows the STAR technique well. For me,
Perfect.
like when like, how you had said you did the interview and you were like, oh, after I did my interview, I cringed. Like, I got off and I was like, that's the worst I've ever done in an interview, because I was so nervous, and I studied. Like, I had situations, and I knew I'm a recruiter. I interview people, right? I teach others this stuff. But I in that interview, I don't know what happened. Like, my mind went blank, and I was like, can we start over? I started again sweating, which I didn't always do. And I think part of it too was the company I was working for, I was very loyal to. And like, I led RACVET, which was the internal military community, first MilSpouse ever. At first they were like, you're just a MilSpouse. And I was like, watch me work. And so that I was there for 2 years. But like, I felt so guilty, like I was cheating on them during that interview, that I did not do great in my interview, but they obviously saw something. So, I'm told people will apply to roles at Amazon or AWS like multiple times, and not even make it past, the initial review to a phone screen. So don't let it be discouraged. Don't let it discourage you. Networking is critical for this reason. Like, you're more like, obviously the candidates I review everyone's resume. And you're more than just a piece of paper or a number for me. So like, so I want to say that first. But secondly, we do notice, like, virtual gives you access to recruiters, hiring managers, and resources that weren't all there before, because people were having you go on site for class or etc. Like, now is a very unique opportunity to be able to brand your passion, and your career desires, especially on LinkedIn. And you can tag people on your stuff that you have never talked to before, and that's not considered weird. It's not. You want them to interact. You want them to be like, hey, I know who you are. You know what I mean? So when you apply or when you reach out to them, it's not a cold reach anymore. So
yeah, this is also new. I mean, it's just, you don't have to do this as a teacher. So I'm just figuring it all out.
You can do it. You got this.
Everyone just hires math teachers because they just need them. So you just walk in and they give you a job.
They're
Math,
like, yes, math.
the fact that
Yeah.
that is so cool. I did my first interview with Chase and I bombed it so hard. I forgot how to write a for loop. It was terrible. I couldn't think of it. My brain did not work. It was horrible. Like I was like, I asked Toanna, I was like, I can't be a software engineer anymore. I'm done. My life's over. Like it was so dramatic. It was so bad.
Well, it sucks, right? When like I rejection's not anything any of us like to feel. And when you're really wanting something, when you really really want it, nerves kick in. And so like one thing that's really cool, at Amazon, all of our interviewers like are trained. Like they are like full on trained to look for star technique, to look for examples of earns trust, or insisting on the highest standards, or like they're trained to interview, which is not common. Not all organizations put them through like these requirements of, as an interviewer I have to shadow, I think it's like 10 other interviewers. And then from there, they have like deep dive training for our bar raisers. Like they take interviewing very, very seriously. But other organizations, hey, I just started at your company. Hey, Sam, can you come in and interview this person that just walked in? You know what I mean? Like it's different depending on the company that you're applying to or interviewing for. But it is a robust program, or not program, process, at Amazon. But definitely don't be discouraged, because I think you're on the right track.
Sam, can I ask you a question? Hi, I'm Toanne.
Hi.
We didn't get
Hello.
we didn't get a chance to introduce ourselves. So I'm
Yes, yeah.
Toanne. I'm actually in Japan right now. And
Woo, woo.
thank you for doing this for us today. This is a question we get in our group. So we've been promoting Amazon stuff really hard. And I think a lot of people get discouraged because they have been applying and they're automatically getting a no longer under consideration. So could you explain two questions? One, can you explain the
Mhm.
process? And two, how do you get past that initial assessment? Because I think the mindset of military spouses is that we're all leaders, we all problem solve, and we know how to get things done, and we're team players. And I wonder if that's kicking people out of the assessment because they're doing more of a team player role instead of being a leadership role. And so we need to figure out how to get people past that assessment part, because we know
So
they could do it. We just
yeah.
we're trying to figure this out because we've heard from a lot of people that they're not even getting past that first step.
Well, usually if you've applied and within that day or the next day, your application moves to no longer qualified, it's likely the assessment.
Mhm.
Um, so I personally, and this is a rare opportunity, because Autumn, you had to take the assessment, right? Can you share kind of like your experience with that? Because obviously she passed the assessment.
So I think that if I wasn't prepared for this assessment, I would have failed it because I am partially a very like I'm a what's the word for it? Like I am very much I guess more of a leader. I don't know what you'd say, but I am also very teamworky, and I think women we can be like so much like trying to do teamwork that we forget to kind of like for instance, like this isn't about the assessment, but I had interviewed with Apprenti first, and I like could not talk about good things that I had done. I was like, well, my group did this, and my group did that, and she's like, I'm not interviewing your group, I'm interviewing you. You have to like, she's like, I want you to make it to the next round, and you have to get better about talking to yourself. And like, I was so bad at it, it was terrible. I had to like sit like I practiced so hard before I got there, and I think that sometimes you might not think about what you need to do. And also I think too much before I like make a decision. In Amazon you have to be able to make a decision at a certain point and you can't just think about it. So I really referred to my leadership principles and I studied them and got to know them and really like watched videos on them and really like kind of because if you look at them like just looking at them on a list you might not fully understand what they mean. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, they just have these leadership principles everywhere and they like love them. But they actually, when you start to get into like why they have each of them, I think I've learned a lot as a person because I was very like, oh, I need to get all the information. I need to like sit and like me. And I, even in my own career,
Sound familiar, Ray?
I kept thinking like, oh my God, I don't know enough to like go for an interview. I don't know enough to do this. And I did know enough. There's people that know way less than I knew and they were getting these jobs, you know, and I like the imposter syndrome was so big, you know. And then I think I've learned so much at Amazon that it's like it's okay to like, it's almost like I feel like it complements my personality because I always want to do the best job and I want to do so much and I want to like do these things that are so much bigger than what I'm not sure if I can accomplish, and that is so much of what they do, you know. And there's so much training and it's just amazing. And so I would really like, it sounds crazy and like probably like corny, but really research those leadership principles because I've learned a lot about me as a person. Like I never thought I would be like, wow, like, you know, it really, to sit there and think about like being frugal sounds like, oh, they're just cheap, but they're not. The way that they go with their customers and they will go and they will try to help them find solutions, and it makes them innovate things and come up with new things that trying to save money. But it's just a lot of it. I think if you really research those principles and think about why they have them, and then you're like, oh, and then go back in it, you'll almost understand what those questions mean, I guess. Even if that is a corny Amazon answer, I'm sorry. But
No, that's for real though. Like that's, I mean, you didn't have to do Forte yet, right? It was my first time doing Forte, and I had to identify like a couple of my strongest, I guess, leadership principles, and then a couple where there are areas. Did you?
yes,
Huh? You
I
did
did
it?
that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's hard to
And
think
it,
of their worse. It was like I had to really think about it, and it really like made
mhm.
sense.
Same. I even asked Ray, I was like, so, which one should like help me with this? Like, help me think around this because that's the key is really thinking and digging into each of those leadership principles and why they're there. And there's so many resources that are out there and available, for folks to kind of find the tips and tricks and hacks when it comes to Amazon. But it feels weird at first. Like at first I'd be like, oh, this is learn and be curious. I started seeing it in my day to day and I was like, oh, Sam, you're weird. And I was like, but it's true though. You know what I mean? So
It really is like it. They really start to creep into your mind, and you're like, oh, like
you're like, take ownership, like ownership is another one that I'm big about, and I really struggled with like, what area do I want to grow? And I went with learn and be curious, even though obviously I love researching, I love learning, but I want to learn more. So that's the one I chose to work on this year, be it certifications or growing within, my skill set. Like for me that was huge. So when it comes to the online assessments, really that's a great answer. It's understanding the leadership principles, and that'll help you navigate those online assessments. And don't be discouraged if you don't pass it. That doesn't mean you won't ever pass it. You'll just be more prepared the next time.
the first time. I think like a while back, it wasn't like for this recently, but I wanted to do the software development, and I did not get into that one. I got into other.
Yeah, I know. So we have our assessment, and then there's like entry level software devs. They have a whole like tech assessment, a different one. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, yeah, I think I didn't get one of them, and then I think my referral is still pending for one just because I'm already.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you're at Amazon, Autumn. She's definitely an awesome resource. I say that because I'm also her recruiter. Um, and I'll tell you, it's really cool. Like here's an example. I can think of someone. Have you met Apishka yet, Autumn?
No, I don't think so.
So if you're not connected with Apishka Kanal on LinkedIn, highly recommend connecting with her. So Apishka went to the weekly webinars for Amazon to meet with the team and ask questions and build contacts and network. She was out in Hawaii. She's a military spouse. She was out in Hawaii and she was jumping on at like 6 in the morning or whatever to jump on, kind of like you're out in Japan right now. I don't know what time it is over there, right? But you're on, you're engaging, you're networking. Um, like literally as recruiters or hiring managers or whatever, like don't be afraid to add them and connect with them and interact with their content because that's another way you stand out. Attend things that those targets are attending. So if they're speaking at a big, veteran military spouse focused event, attend and ask a question. We notice your names. Like those that are engaging, they stand out.
For like 6 months before this. Okay, ask him. Like I was like I added everybody from all the fan companies I wanted to work
Mhm.
at. I like got to know everybody, but Sam is like the coolest out of all of them. She's so nice. Follow her on LinkedIn. She's so nice. She will
Aw. I'm blushing. You can tell, and it's like I got this like dull light thing going on. Like it's my cave, but I'm like really blushing.
Behind you, be a nice human.
Huh?
I like your sign, the one that says "Be a nice human" behind you.
Oh yeah, you see that? Yeah.
See,
Be a
she's
nice human.
with her sign. See?
Yeah.
Super nice.
And I have my little figurines and my Nerf guns down there.
Stalk all the people at the companies that you want to work at. Go find. I went to Grace Hopper. I got a scholarship for that, and then I went to I joined a bunch of fellowships, went to all their career fairs, and I went to every company. I made a list, and I literally stalked all the recruiters. I added them. I went into every booth that I wanted to work at, and I was like, "Hi, my name's Autumn."
It works though. That's the thing. Like people are like, if I spend all that time, will it work? But it works. And everyone has more access now than ever before. I can't harp on that enough. Recruiters that weren't, and hiring managers even that weren't on LinkedIn or active are now, because it's how you find the talent. You can't go to career fairs like in person anymore. Everything's virtual, so it's like a unique opportunity, I think, for folks to really start to flex that muscle, even if it's uncomfortable at first, because it always is. um you just post content that you're passionate about, that you like. Don't worry about the number of likes or views or whatever, because I can promise you, if you keep posting that content, more and more people, like, it'll show the algorithms and all that fun stuff will have it show up more on your connections feed. So it's just being true to what your passion is, and not being discouraged if you reach out and they don't respond, because that's been my biggest. I say it's a good problem to have, but it sucks, because I like responding to everybody, and it's just I can't, So it's interacting with that content, because we notice, I don't know.
This is the age of the military spouse for me. I think it is it's terrible, and I hope it gets better. But I feel like if we can make lemons into lemonade right now, this is the time for military. Everything, people are answering back, and it's so much better than was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, you see me smiling, right? Like here's a perfect example of someone that goes to multiple events virtually. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
We were talking about basically going to virtual events, and that recruiters notice, they notice your name, they'll recognize your face on the virtual setting, right? How many you're a perfect example, because you've been out there and you've been networking. How many events do you go to? And yeah, Ray says hi.
Me?
Right, Ray? Yes, you.
Oh my gosh, you put me on the spotlight right away, right when I noticed that.
But see, I know you. We know we know you. Think you even came to LinkedIn Mill City too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Quincy adopted me there. So
Yeah, Quincy's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about COVID too, is that's the other perspective. I know there's so many going on. COVID, everybody is sick, but then the other side is the networking, you can now network wherever you are. But yeah, it's since I'm looking for a job right now. Looking for a job is like a full-time job with it's like a full-time job. It's you have to put all your time in there, and there's it's not like a full-time job, but you have the extra time that you have to put it in there, but just to network, and that's hard for me. I'm not really good in networking, but I try to.
You're pretty awesome. That did you see how I perked up once I saw she jumped on the screen? Because
Samantha can see me everywhere.
I'm like, hey, we notice. I promise. I was saying, how we notice, interact. It's tag your target recruiters, tag, the hiring managers, or I don't know, even the companies. I don't know how many times we'll post, especially Wells Fargo is really good. If we tag Wells Fargo, they always like our posts. So I mean, it's there's a way to get out there and network. And I think before LinkedIn, remember when we first got on LinkedIn, really, Ray, and we're all trying to use it, and then we'd add people and then they'd report us.
No, and also
Add, and then
the
we
LinkedIn
get blocked.
police. The
Yes.
LinkedIn police. I'm like, I saw like this is in Facebook, this is LinkedIn. I'm like, well, I'm not posting anything.
Yep. So like the joke, like the tech jokes even that Autumn shared, like back then they'd be like, this isn't Facebook, this isn't fun, like no funny stuff. Everyone was so serious and they were so offended if you tried to add them and that you never met them before. So the thing about LinkedIn is we all know we expect folks to reach out to you that you've never met before and may not have any connections in common with. We anticipate that, and we a lot of folks want that. They want to build and grow their connections because let's say for example, I have a friend of mine. Here's an example. A friend of ours who's always given back. She's a MilSpouse and she was also a veteran, always giving back to our community. She worked over at the Military Family Readiness Center over at JBSA. I don't know what her new role is that she's in now, but her husband, who's also a veteran, was hospitalized with COVID, and they have 3 children, and he passed away. And it's like, it super, super like heartbreaking. But what's amazing is that started sharing that, the GoFundMe for her, and the community came out and they came around her because everybody was interconnected. So people were sharing through their networks. So it's important to be authentic you when you're posting on LinkedIn. It's important to interact. Um, don't be shy. Easy said than done. Just go for it, and make it a part of your career strategy. And I saw you pointing at yourself. That Ray's an introvert too. Like he's like, yeah.
I'm like the most shy but not shy person, but I think if you go on LinkedIn and you're yourself, like you
Mhm.
kind of you attract the right people. Like if you laugh at all my like corny jokes, then you probably like my people, right? Like
Yep.
so I feel like you attract people with the right energy.
Hmm. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
know
have a
when I started like LinkedIn, I was very uncomfortable, right? And then Sam was saying, start sharing what your experience or start sharing your knowledge, right? And then
Mhm.
I started sharing, and then I started getting comfortable. Now I almost have like 33, almost 33,000 followers. It's pretty crazy. So I'm like, man, I must be doing something right.
He's bragging because I only have 25. Okay.
Never guessed that you were introverted at all from your LinkedIn. That's so funny. Like I would have never guessed that.
He's like, push
that's
outside of the comfort zone. Oh, hi,
the
Anna. Hi,
Anna. Yeah, hi.
Anna.
I had the exact same question. I was like, I'm an introvert. You know, using your passion and your purpose to kind of guide you and put yourself out there a bit. But I was wondering, what are the like tips and tricks for networking, and posting that content, and also in the interview process.
Yeah.
Yes,
No. So like one thing one thing I did to get comfortable was I started adding folks, right, and following content that I was interested, and I just started sharing it. Like at first, I wasn't saying anything. I would just share it, just share content that I found interesting, and that's kind of helps you kind of warm that up a little bit. Going through and adding folks, that are in the roles that you want, that are part of the MilSpouse community or military community, those that are technical recruiters or hiring managers, or I think I had said, yeah, working in the roles that you want. Those are big, big ones to go through and just add. Um, there's different philosophies around like what message, sending a message to a recruiter. They might not add you unless like if it's uncomfortable and you're like, I really don't know what to say, and that's what's keeping you from clicking go and or clicking add, don't write anything, just click add. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, the more you'll start to also pull in others with the same kind of content that you're interested in and passionate about, right? You'll start to see that in your news feed, and that can also help with inspiration. And so that it's a weird way to say it, but that's a good way to like get comfortable and know that like as long as it's something that you care about, the post isn't a bad post. Does that make sense?
Love that. Yep.
I got an example. So whenever I post something, right, I'm like, I'm at least gonna get one engagement, Sam, because she was the only one I was tagging at first, right?
Partner each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it
Yep.
started growing, right? So start tagging folks that you're comfortable with, like this group right here.
Yep.
Tag them, because what's gonna happen is, like, if I'm not tagged on somebody's post, I'm never gonna see it.
The
Never
likelihood of
gonna
seeing
see it.
it's very small.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because now if you tag me in the actual post, and if somebody engages in that post, I'm gonna see it every single time. So we started, this the key, right? I tagged so many people in there, so their LinkedIn is blowing up. I mean,
Yeah.
it is blowing up,
Even
right?
mine, like I'll be off and then I'll get on. And it's like 88 notifications, and I'm like,
Yep.
and it's all from that because he tags me on every single announcement that we're doing with the key, and that's another way. Like as your content is going, you're getting the attention of those that you tagged, but also you need some like some a team. So if Erica posts something and you get tagged, you like it or interact with it, vice versa. If Carrie is it Carrie Lee? Carrie Lee? Carol, I don't want to jack that one up. Yes. Tag each other. And then if you're interacting with each other's content, that's going to help push it right through your connections networks,
Yep.
which is also going to get the attention of recruiters, but tag
Yep.
the recruiters. Like you don't have to have met people before. I promise. You just add them, just
Yeah.
run.
So if you tag Sam and I, if I like it and Sam likes it, our network will see it in
Mhm.
their feed. So that's why it's important to tag folks. It's like I always tell people, if you want to like hard tap somebody, tap 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 tap, right? Tag them in your actual post. If you want to do like a soft tap, right, you tag them in your comment, because what happens is if you tag them in your post, and every time somebody reacts to your post or comments in your post, they get notified every single time.
It's a good way to get the attention of recruiters too. We got to remember that one, Ray. That's true.
Yep.
That's a really good analogy. I think of it like the Facebook algorithm. Like, sometimes people never see your Facebook things, and then like the more like people tag on it, it's the same thing with LinkedIn.
That's it. Yep.
Hashtags too. Like, do you all have a like a hashtag that you use
Yeah.
for?
It's mostly me and like tagging you guys all in it.
So like if you have a hashtag that is your standard, put it on every post that you each post, even if it's applicable or not. And then that way you can actually jump around and look at content through hashtags. So you could click on like MilSpouse Coder, and then see all of the posts from each other, or relative posts within by following that hashtag. Does that make sense? So that's another way to do it. I've been boosting, like we boost Team Domingo, LinkedIn Mill City, AWS military is another one because Amazon military is pretty common. AWS on the tech side, our team isn't always, so that's what now I've started putting that on everything. When I first started writing content or like first getting active on LinkedIn, it's probably been not that long, maybe a year since I've really used the tag. I had IT Recruiting Ninja, so I'd put it on every post, like for resources I was sharing, etc. I might have used it earlier this year. I don't use it as often anymore, but come up with your own, like if you have a gamer tag, use that, that add that to every post, and follow tags. There's tons and tons of them out there. And that'll also help shape the content in your newsfeed too.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a photo, I'm gonna post it on LinkedIn, I'm gonna tag everybody, I'm gonna tag certain folks, and then you guys gonna get more followers. So here it goes.
The best free game right now on like
1, 2, 3.
Yay.
like
Cool.
it's like
So
the best advice ever, because honestly I've got like if you look at my like connection thing on LinkedIn, there's so many people who didn't even give me the time of day that I bugged them, and like career fairs, they wouldn't even add me on LinkedIn. And I'm glad, because look at where we are. Like we ended up with Ray and Sam, and we can talk to them. Like who cares if they don't like respond to you? You didn't want to
yep.
work with them anyways.
And know that sometimes they don't because they're slammed. And know, so it's hard not to take it personal, right? I know I did, you know.
I definitely did.
Yeah. So it's easy for me to say, but I promise you I felt the same way before. And imposter syndrome is very real. Which is probably why how I mentioned I'd want to hide underneath the desk when I get a compliment. But I do work my tail off, and I do try for our community because I know what it feels like to not even be given a shot. Um, yeah. What cuties? Hi, little cuties.
You want to say hi? You can say it. They'll hear
Hi.
you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. You're so cute.
I want to hear Jen. You want to just say, I'm Tyson.
I love tiny things.
You're Tyson. Okay, they can hear you, but I'm not going to take my headphones out.
Aww. I miss when ours were little like that.
Yep. Has everybody seen has everybody seen the iceberg illusion? And if you haven't, look at the iceberg illusion, right? I do a lot of presentations and workshops and panels and stuff, and I usually share that diagram, iceberg illusion, right? Because Sam and I talk a lot. We talk. It's so easy because we're both recruiters and we're both tech recruiters, right? But the latest one we talked about was looking back 5 years ago, would you have ever thought that you'd be recruiting for Amazon Web Services? Would I ever thought that I'd be recruiting for Lockheed Martin? I didn't think I would be able to do that, right?
Mm-mm.
But the iceberg illusion, there's certain folks that when I share my stuff or my experience of that I've been through, I get like some nasty messages sometimes. They're like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You never been through it, right?" Because now they're looking at the iceberg illusion. They see me like here, right? But they don't know all the stuff that we went through. There's so
Mm.
many crazy stuff that we went through, all the failures that I've been through, all the jobs I lost after retiring, all the unemployment that I went through, the struggles that we went through as a family.
And this used to be very hard for us to share this
It
stuff, but then
is,
we
it is.
realized if somebody would have shared it with us, we would have known that we weren't like I would if somebody would have told me that they have trouble finding employment every time they PCS and they got their MBA and can't find a role, like if I would have had those conversations, I wouldn't have felt like this big. You know what I mean? So it took me a while to feel better because I didn't I thought I did something wrong, and I didn't. I just didn't know that there's tons of other educated military spouses out there who are facing the same exact challenges as I was. Um, so yeah, iceberg illusion is real for
It
sure.
is. It is. And I always share this one quote: "Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will." Because man, doubt started creeping up on me after retiring. After failure, and then I was applying for, to be a, those folks at the grocery
Stalker
store, and I
at
didn't
the
even get a call
commissary.
back. Yeah, I didn't get a call back. I didn't get an email. I'm like, what is going on here? I have
Yeah.
all these years experience, and before I retired, I felt like a superhero. I'm like, doing 20 years because everybody pumped me up. You're gonna have no problems. Everybody's gonna be after you.
Yeah,
So I retired.
you're a military recruiter.
Yeah,
Like,
yep. So
yeah.
retired felt like a superhero, and then after a couple months of not getting an interview, I'm like, I I feel kind of like I feel like kind of crappy, right? And I started getting in that deep dark hole in a cave and stuff, and it was pretty tough for me to get out that dark hole, right? Because of constant you know of rejection after rejection, no calls, no emails, applying after application, right? But I started like thinking positive. Started thinking positive. Started listening to YouTube, motivational speeches, motivational music and stuff, and it was constant. And at the time, we lived on base. I think the house that we were living on base was like 1,200 square feet. Um,
All of our
and
stuff was in
yeah,
storage in
yep, in
Cali.
the storage, and I
Yeah.
had a little spot in the garage was my office, and I was in there every day. But I had to try to figure out a way to get out that rut, right? So I started listening to like motivational speeches, like Will Smith. He does a lot. Denzel a lot again on YouTube. But I think that's the hardest part is getting out that rut because of constant failure and stuff like that, right? But now that's what feeds us now. So
Well, I think now it's therapeutic.
yep,
You know what I mean? Talk about it because we definitely didn't want to talk about it before. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that we all go through, right, in our own minds. When we're alone, if we're looking for jobs and we can't get into an opportunity, or there's something we're really passionate about and we have to do like a zigzag in our career to get there. Um, and a lot of people don't talk about it. And I think it's important to because um, I don't know, like once you find that place or that type of role or that purpose behind your career, once you give yourself that opportunity and you find it, it's just a matter of time before you're a software developer. For me, I was a technical recruiter. It's just a matter of time. But it's what I really love is that you have this group and people are coming together and uplifting one another and advocating for each other and sharing knowledge, because that's going to get you there faster to wherever their destination is. I know that sounds all corny, um, but know that you're taking control of your career right now, right? You're meeting with two recruiters for one. For two, you're together with a common shared interest in technology, and definitely need more women, right, represented within the tech industry. Um, but you guys are like already doing it. That you're taking the time out with us on, was it Wednesday? What day is it? Thursday. See, that's pretty bad.
Thursday.
That's when I'm working a lot of hours. Thursday, almost evening out here in Central Time. But I don't know if I think we
Somebody
got
asked a
like
question.
5 minutes. Is that okay? Or can I? Do you mind taking Ray if I have to hop off in 5?
Yeah, somebody asked a question. What's the roadmap
Okay.
to becoming a software developer? Do you need a degree?
Not
Not
always.
always. Nope, not always. So there's a lot of this like a job description that's gonna be out there. Some of them do require a degree, and if you don't have a degree, you gotta have some kind of experience. So, but not
Or boot
all
camps.
roles. Yep.
Yeah, or going to like a full stack boot camp, coding boot camp. Um, I think I mean, I'm totally sounding like an AWS military recruiter right now, but I'm here because of this program. Just so you know, I said yes, and I pursued that interview because of this program. Because more often than not, I would see folks in our community, whether you're a MilSpouse or a veteran, pivoting into a career in technology. They go through the training, they get the certifications, but they can't get into that first role. So for me, that's why I'm very passionate about apprenticeships, because you have the base knowledge. It's just a matter of the company like hanging on like all those extra little things that you need. If that makes sense. But I think the most for the roles that I have, what I'm realizing, because I've recruited for a few different SDE apprenticeships, what we really like to see are CS related degrees, but that definitely is not required. I promise you. Uh, some kind of like, even if you don't have that passion for, like, if you're building your own website, or um, you have projects that you've done, you've collaborated on, include that stuff. Include an overview, because that tells us that you're passionate about software development, and makes you even more appealing to a company, especially in a start like an entry level role.
When asked, do you have any boot camps that you recommend?
Mm, Not having done it myself, I don't like, even when I'm like reviewing candidates, I'm really looking at what does the curriculum consist of. Again, love Java, Python's common, JavaScript. A lot of folks that go through those boot camps are going in for front end development. So diversifying your skill set is always beneficial. Python obviously is a desired language. Trying to think, what am I forgetting, Ray?
I know. With my experience, I pretty much saw it all. When I was recruiting for F5, Accenture, HP, JP Morgan, Ruby. Ruby was one of the hot ones I was looking
Yeah,
for.
Ruby.
But Java is definitely hot.
You can't go wrong with that, I
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah, I love Java.
Mm.
So what I did was I shared a next LinkedIn Mill City event. Definitely, if you can, try to attend it. It's virtual now, and also follow the key. And like I said, I highly recommend everybody connecting with all the mentors that we're selecting.
They want you to
Um,
connect with them.
they
Like,
do,
they're
they
good
do.
with it.
Yep,
And we've asked them. We're like, can people connect with you, add you, send you a message, and they're all about it. So the
yep,
only way, like, if they get bombarded with messages, they may not respond very quickly, but definitely reach out to them and build your network,
yep.
because they're also connected with folks, and then sharing content that's applicable to I guess the mill community as well.
Yep, and we'll be setting up like future events virtually to where you'll get to meet majority of your mentors. So definitely try to attend it, get to know them, connect with them. But like I said, it may not be with the company they're working for. They may be able to refer you for other companies too.
We're all
We
connected to
do.
each other. So especially like the military recruiting space, or those that are active in the community across multiple companies. Obviously, we know we can't hire every single person at our company, um, and our priority is to have our military community competitively employed, not just put in a role, right? Just because I can get you in July for this one role, I hold on to you. It's kind of like the whole sharing knowledge thing. We share candidates too. because we want to make sure that our community is looked out for, because we deserve it. And MilSpouses are the bomb.com. So I know that sounded corny too, but I can say it because I am one. Ray's all like,
Asking.
Make sure
Okay.
you guys reach out to them and add them on LinkedIn, and please like follow them and just see all the amazingness, and you guys will start to understand. Like you'll totally get it.
Well, we really appreciate all of you. Sorry. Oh, yes, please go ahead. We appreciate you hanging out with us today too.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, because this really helped my confidence a lot in the whole imposter syndrome thing, because I'm, getting into tech, trying to learn all I can, trying to do the pivot deal when we're about to do a PCS, and I'm gonna have to say goodbye to my job. I work on base, and looking for a role in tech. So I'm just kind of on the side teaching myself all I can, and there are times when I do feel like I'm the whole imposter thing, but just knowing that, like, hey, you can do this too. Like, it's it's all within your reach if you put in the work. So thank you for talking with us today.
You're welcome. My pleasure. You gave me goosebumps.